and it's sort of more with the building services we deal with. So that's the specializing fire safety is my specialty. I'm a fire engineer.
Oh, yeah.
That may mean nothing to you, or may mean something to you. I don't know.
I know a lot about fire engineering. We used to have a client who did that.
Oh, okay, that's a good thing. Because that's the first question normally get asked is how do you engineer fire? Which is quite difficult, and a lot of fire engineers still don't really know how to do it. But we're sort of, and what we're doing is working the existing building space, so servicing a lot of FMs that have problems in their buildings. And with that, it's sort of, I like to see that we're contributing to the solution, not the problem, because at the moment the construction industry is in a little bit of disrepair because of there's probably many facets to it. So it's an interesting space to be in.
Your company, or do you work with somebody?
Sorry, AG Coombs Advisory. So that's part of the AG Coombs group, which is about 1,000 people, and that's sort of made up of contractors, and it would be mechanical, fire, and the servicing side of the business, which is we do a lot of like contract maintenance work. And so our side of the business is the advisory, is supporting those other bigger arms of the business in a way as well.
Okay. Oh, good. So why are you here?
Well, the topic got me, and you're quite good at that, Rashid, based on your weekly emails I get from you. And it's sort of, we can all be really good at what we do, and that's good. We know it, and maybe the person next to you knows it, but sort of getting the word out there in a way where people see you as not as just another number, but that trusted advisor, and having that respect, and any way to improve that. I'm always there for self-improvement, because I'm definitely not perfect, and anyone that claims to be they're perfect, I'm always a bit cautious of.
Indeed.
So that's really the main reason. And what I found working with good clients, things you enjoy it more, you make things and that's what you want to do. You want to enjoy what you do, and if I can do more of that, and I can learn how to do more of that, I'm always curious.
Okay, great. Okay, good day, Tom. Tom, can you hear us?
Hi, Rashid. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm just getting my camera on. Sorry about that. Yeah, I can. Just go ahead. Sorry, I'm just.
Okay. Look. I don't know how many people are going to turn up. We had quite a lot registered, but as Jill said, maybe some people couldn't find the link for some reason. So what I thought we might do is, rather than go through a whole long spiel, we could just do it as more interactive. I'll go through some of the topics I want to talk about, and we can just talk into them. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Might make it more interesting and interactive, shall we say? So, Tom, just give me a bit of background. What do you do? And
I essentially provide business valuations specifically to the SME sector, accounting as well. So accounting, bookkeeping, and taxation services. These is what I've been doing for the last 7 years, since I started my business, and prior to that have been working for some major companies doing similar things, similar services. So KPMG, EY, prior to starting my business 7 years ago.
Okay. And why are you here?
I wanted to know more about the ways of getting quality clients. I've been, on an exploratory journey, trying to get more information of how to actually work that, and also just to see the implications of AI, SEO, digital marketing. And as Marcus was saying, you find that there's a lot of competing headwinds now, and it's about how do we navigate all these effectively so that small to medium businesses like ours can thrive along with the much bigger players who have a much higher marketing budgets. you know, so the main issue I've found is that a lot of smaller to medium businesses are restricted and limited in many ways because they don't have those deep pockets for huge marketing budgets, you know.
Mhm.
That's a disadvantage. So how do we bridge that to ensure that, you know, similar companies, but smaller, can also thrive in this environment?
Okay. And your typical client is who?
My typical clients are business owners, construction, any industry.
Big particular size or?
Typically turnover from about 2 million to roughly 100 million is my
Okay.
bandwidth, and family lawyers, other accountants who I can, you know, have a
Sure.
joint venture with, kind of thing. Or
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. So thanks. All right.
thank you.
Anurag, or is it Anu or just Anurag?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, you're very. Try again. No, we can hardly hear you, mate.
It's set to the wrong microphone, I think, Anurag.
All right, let's make a start. So as I said, there are only a few of us here, so let's make this as interactive as possible. Barbara, you want to say something?
Maybe just because we know what Dill's doing, not everybody else.
Yeah, I know.
knows what Dill's doing. So.
Sorry, Jill. Yes, you're right. Jill, what do you do?
I help organizations implement CRM successfully, and I've recently launched a solution called Success RM, which is, I'm still not sure about the word solution. It's fundamentally an approach that's education rich, and when used will avoid an awful lot of the pitfalls that cost millions of dollars through failed projects.
Okay.
So it has changed a bit. Sort
It
of.
has indeed. It has indeed. Yes. Good, Shane. Anurag, do you want to have another go and tell us who you are and what you do?
No.
No, you need to change your mind.
You go ahead and
Okay. All right. Good day, Shane.
Hi, Rashid.
So we're just a small group, so we thought we'd just make it a bit interactive. Do you want to just tell us who you are and what you do for the rest of the group?
Yeah, I'm Shane Whitehouse. I'm based in Brisbane. I'm the ANZ Sales Director for ITANS, and that is a company that works really with organisations who are on digital transformation and are dealing with data and integration issues.
Okay, great. And why are you here?
Well, it's one thing that we've got our client base, but it's in quite some niche industries. And so one of the things is, how do you expand that into other areas where people say, well, what can you do for us? And so getting that story, when particularly looking at greenfields that may have similar problems, but you don't have the experience of that industry, where you've got 3 or 4 customers who are advocates for it. So looking at how we expand and how we sort of move sideways, still doing the same challenges and issues, but into different markets.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let me, Barbara, do you want to introduce yourself? Or I'll introduce you. For those of you who don't know, Barbara is my wife first, business partner second, whichever order you want to put this in. Keeps me on track and is the mainstay of running the business. I'm the front guy, she does everything else. For those of you who don't know me, I think you all do know me, but just for the record, I'm a business mentor and strategist, and I work predominantly with small to medium business owners who want to move beyond, take the business to a point where they could move beyond the business. Moving beyond the business means the business should be in a position to run without them. So from Tom's point of view, if you do evaluation of the business, you want to be able to, the owner wants to be able to sell the business without being encumbered. So no golden handcuffs saying you've got to hang around for whatever period of time, because that's where the valuation basically drops. And so we predominantly work in the leadership space as well as the marketing and sales space. But those are the spaces that we work in. And our whole goal is to help people grow the business to a point where it could be sold if they want to sell it, or they could do the bits in the business that they want to do rather than be encumbered with the other stuff that they don't want to be doing. So why did we decide to run this? Well, one of the reasons is we talk to a lot of businesses, obviously, and we see a couple of different economies running. There is one economy that goes, everything is going gangbusters, and we have more than enough clients, and our problem tends to be resources. Just getting people to do the work. And that is something that we also help people, not finding the resources for people, but actually helping them structure the business in the right way. But the other side of it is, how do we actually get more clients in the door? Because competition is increasing. People are hanging onto their wallets. They're taking long to make decisions. And so our whole goal, really, with working with clients and putting on something like this today, is how do you become more effective, which is increase your conversion rate? And then how do you become more efficient, which is reducing the time in the sales cycle? Because a lot of, something that we see a lot is a lot of people get leads, but they don't actually convert a lot of those leads, which is a waste of time and money, especially if you're paying for the leads and you're paying for the marketing. So if you doubled your conversion rate and halved the time you took, you'd actually quadruple your results. So let me just ask this, okay? So out of all of these issues, I've got a list of them. Just sing out which ones that you think you're experiencing. Okay, number one, lack of leads, not enough pipeline. Yep. Hate the thought of cold outreach. Cold calling. Anybody cold call?
Yeah.
Yeah, you cold call.
Cold email / LinkedIn, but not call.
Okay. What else? Prospects. Okay. How many of you actually send a lot of messages and get no response?
Yes, it happens a fair bit.
Fair bit. Okay. Waste time with prospects who aren't qualified. So somebody calls you up, says, hey, I want to do something, and you waste a lot of time, and then you find out that they have no time, no money. They really weren't interested. Happens. Yep. And how many of you actually see a lot of leads that could be highly qualified? But they turn up not to do any business with you for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason is. Okay. And so deals fall over. Sometimes you never hear from them again. They made all the right noises, but then all of a sudden, nothing. Anybody like that? Okay. So let's look at a couple of major shifts that we've seen over the years. One is there's this whole thing about the traditional sales cycle. If you did any sort of sales training in the 80s, 90s, and even maybe even the early 2000s, there's this linear process that people went through. You started here, you qualified, you this thing called BANT, which is looking for how much their budget was, what the timeframes were, and all of those things. And then hope like hell that people would follow this linear process and then spit out of the client at the other end. And that just does not happen anymore. In today's world, if we look statistically, a senior business executive who is looking for a solution is likely, if they already know that they're looking for a solution, and this is key, they are likely to have done extensive research. They are likely to be 60, 70% of the way down the decision path before they want to even talk to a vendor. And that's key, because they are making decisions long before they've contacted you. And so that means that your marketing material and your positioning in the marketplace has to be such that if they find you, because they're looking, number one, they have to find you. Number two, when they find you, they have to recognize that you've got credibility and expertise in the marketplace. And so they are going to be comparing you with everybody else that they can find out there. And then the key then is, once they contact you, what do you do then to move them down that process of actually making a decision and helping them make the right decision, which of course is to buy from you. And of course, sometimes it's not to buy from you, and that might actually be the right decision. And we say to people, if they're not a good fit and somebody else is a good fit, send them on, because they will trust you far more if you give them good advice and say, hey, listen, we're not actually the best person for you, somebody else is. And then that other person hopefully might well reciprocate as well. So you can't control when someone is going to buy. This is the other thing, our agenda is not their agenda. So we have to put everything in place to help them make that decision to buy when they're ready. Yeah, we've had instances, I think our longest time before somebody became a client was 10 years of being on our list. In other instances, somebody sees us on LinkedIn, they see our videos, they see the stuff we write, they ring us up and they say, hey, listen, I just want to make sure you don't have two heads, and can we do a deal? Okay, and anything in between. But if we look at the average length of time for some of our clients, it's been somewhere between, I've known them, spoken to them regularly for a month, 18 months, sometimes 2 years. So the average tenure is about 18 months, which is interesting. And it's that constant drip, 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 keep in touch, nurture, keep in touch, nurture, keep in touch, nurture. Pick up the phone, talk to them. You don't know when they're going to be ready. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot in sales is mindset. Yeah. What is your mindset? My mindset is I am here to serve rather than to sell. And by providing an environment where I can help you make the right decision, whatever that right decision is for you, and I'm serving you to do so, then I'm likely to keep you as a long-term client. And to do that, though, I have to have absolute conviction as to what my own value is. And that's something that we see a lot with people. We don't necessarily believe that we're good enough. We don't believe that the solution that we afford is good enough, or we think it's going to be too expensive. Whatever it is, there's a whole bunch of mindset stuff that goes on that we need to clear out of our own heads and say, okay, we have a level of conviction about what we do, and we can't solve every problem. I mean, as Marcus said, not every, we're not all knowing, and basically we need to narrow down what it is we do so that we are really clear as to what our expertise, what our experience is, and who we are as people, because people ultimately buy from people. None of us actually buy from another corporation. We buy from people. And if we have a good relationship with the person, then that extends into the corporation we buy from. Okay. So if we look at categories of the market, and I'll just share my screen here because I think this is an interesting one. Tell me if you can see that. So if we look at a marketplace, this is a rough estimate of a pie chart. Okay, so if we look at a marketplace, 3% of your marketplace is ready to buy at any one time. And they are people who know that they have a problem. They know that they want to solve the problem, and they are actively looking for a solution. Now, that actively looking for a solution is really key, because those are the people that when they find your website, when they find you on LinkedIn, they are looking to see, they're trying to figure out how credible you are. Are you an expert in that particular field? Do you have materials that speaks to their expertise? If you then look at the next 7%, we're open to a conversation, and that is where prospecting comes in. That is where some form of outreach to a particular person in an organization comes in, because they may know that they have a problem. They know they're open to a conversation. If you send them a message saying, okay, these are certain priorities that we know that our clients have. If you're facing any of those, are you open to a conversation? And then there's another 30%, they know they have an issue, but are they actually going to do anything about it? Okay. And they may stumble upon you. You may happen to hit them with a prospecting call. And then the rest of them are somewhat dissatisfied. They don't know why they're stuck. And there's a whole 30% who are simply not interested no matter what you did. But the key is you really want to focus on that first 3, 7, and 30%. So that's what, 30, 37, 40%. Yeah. And you do that both through marketing, which is all about sending out content. It is about educating your market as to why they should be looking to solve this particular problem and why the status quo is something that they should be getting off and why they should be taking action. So given that, this is one of our primary models, which we integrate marketing, prospecting, and selling. So if you think of marketing as everything that helps people find you, and it's not about traditional brand and image. And this is where larger organizations go down this whole path of brand and image marketing. But we can't afford that. We're small organizations. What we want to do is to be very, very specific as to who we are targeting and why we are targeting these people. And the narrower that we can make it, the easier it is to have a message that actually resonates or is likely to resonate with those people. And the big mistake is that, and I hear this a lot, people say to me, oh, everybody could be my market. But, the minute you say that everybody could be my market, it means that nobody's my market, because you can't actually have a specific message to a specific person. And if you look at marketing, the marketing really has to support two things. It has to support your prospecting and has to support your selling. And prospecting is, so marketing is a one-to-many activity. Okay, you're putting stuff out there, you're hoping that somebody's going to see it. Or if somebody's looking, they're going to find you. Prospecting, oh, what did that do? Prospecting is a one-to-one activity. It involves directly reaching out. Now you can reach out via email, you could reach out via LinkedIn message, an email, or a phone call. Okay. And your goal with that is to just evoke enough curiosity to start a conversation. That's your only goal in the initial prospecting. And then once you've evoked enough curiosity that somebody wants to start a conversation, whether it's just a message conversation, but preferably a phone call conversation, that's when you start to ask whether they have a particular issue. You start drilling down to qualify them as much as possible. And the biggest factor with all of this in prospecting and marketing is targeting. The better you target, the more successful you'll be. Because if you try and target everybody, number one, we don't have infinite budgets, and nobody will actually resonate with the message. And then once you have found somebody who is interested or they have contacted you, that's when the actual selling process begins. And the selling process is, once again, figuring out what is the problem that they're trying to solve, why should they move from not doing anything to taking action. And in all of this, the intersection over here, which is positioning is really a key factor that we talk about, because the better your positioning as a credible expert in your field, the easier it is for somebody to convince themselves that they should come to you. And it's the obvious analogy is a GP as a doctor versus the specialist. A specialist charge the high amounts of money compared to a general practitioner, because they've studied a lot more. We tend to take them at face value because they've been recommended by the GP, and we tend to take their advice because they're the specialist. And so the better you can position yourself through your marketing, which is about content, it is about referrals, it is about how people recommend you and how people talk about you, the more successful you will be at selling, because it's already done a lot of the hard work, and a lot of the positioning does a lot of the leverage for you. And the biggest mistake that we see is that people don't align those three activities. So a lot of people just do prospecting. Some people just try and do selling without any sort of positioning. And a lot of people just spend a lot of money on content or time on producing content without actually reaching out to somebody as a prospect and not actually engaging in a sales conversation. So you put all this stuff out and you hope that people are going to come to you, but the reality is most people won't. Okay, so let's just ask the question: which one of those things do you resonate with? Or which ones are you doing well? Which ones aren't you doing?
I have a particular challenge where I'm in a company where the owner of the company doesn't necessarily see the value. If he ranked them, he would put selling at the top, prospecting as 2, marketing as 3rd, and is now putting a very low value on marketing, when I would argue that we are still a secret in any of the markets that we want to go into. So in order to you know, reach that top 10%, but even the 30%, I've said we have to invest a lot more. And the argument is we'll get the sales and then we'll spend on marketing. And that challenge of the sort of the having to do everything to create that with, you know, without one or the other, where there's no prospecting, you don't necessarily get it. If there's no marketing, you don't necessarily get it. If you don't sell and you just create content, it's not there. But for businesses, the challenge of how do you do it, keep it all moving together to actually get that chrysalis of a sale.
So have you actually ever asked him why he believes this?
Because he's done marketing before and not sold or not prospected. He's then created the next, gone down the next path, but expected instant results. So going from a standing start to sort of saying we'll get there, and that's been the challenge of, you've got to build this up and build the awareness. And unfortunately, it's, well, I've got a marketing company, there should be meetings, there should be opportunities, there should be sales. Marketing company doesn't work because I'm doing marketing now, where is the sales? And so the challenge is, well, you've got to sort of, that's where you'll get your mass from. Your prospecting will qualify and get you down to people that you will actually ultimately sell to.
Yeah, and look, this is an interesting one, because I talk to a lot of lead generation companies. Okay, and the common refrain is, oh, you know, we give the company, whoever they're dealing with, okay, so the end client, we give them all of these leads who have been qualified, because, you know, the lead generation company says, we've had the interaction, we've spoken to the prospect, we know that there's a thing, and you know what, the company getting the leads never actually calls. Yes, of course you can jump in.
Okay, Shane, there is a reason why this is a Venn diagram, and there is a reason why they are intersection, and we talk about intersections.
Yes.
Because what I'm hearing is that it's been approached as one distinct silo activity.
Yes, but that would be a fair assessment, or it's
rather than an interconnected and interlocked one.
Yes, and that siloed approach is pretty much coming from a budget.
Okay.
i.e., I spent X on marketing. Where is my return on investment?
Yeah.
Okay. There is we see that a lot, and that's exactly why this is a Venn. The other thing we hear a lot is, well, there is often, and please don't get me wrong, I'm sometimes a bit direct, but there is no judgment attached to that. There is not a clear enough outcome what each of those interconnected bubbles should do for each other and what the overall outcome is. That's the other thing. And therefore, the third component is actually, well, we do marketing, but then we have too much work and we can't do any more marketing because blah, 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 blah. So it's all of that. And that's exactly why each of those circles is equally important in its connectivity. All right?
I think what people, and I'll come back to you, Jill, in a second. I think what people fail to realize is the marketing is a slow burn.
Yes.
And and they think that the marketing is just going to bring in all these clients who are going to say, hey, I'm ready to do business, give me your money, or let me I'm willing to give you money. Okay. And it doesn't work like that. Most people, as we know, most people are passive. If you just look at LinkedIn as an example, the vast majority of people would lurk. Okay, they're never going to respond to a post. They're never going to like anything. All of a sudden, one day you might get a phone call from somebody saying, "Hey, listen, I've been looking at you for God knows donkeys, whatever, and I'd like to know more, and I'd like to start a conversation." And you have absolutely no idea who they are. You've never heard of them because they've never interacted. But if you knew that somebody was looking, or the type of person that you wanted to target, and you said, okay, I'm going to target this person with some marketing material, which could be a white paper or some case studies or some diagnostic or whatever it is that you put together, and you reach out to them and say, hey, I know you're in this particular field, and I reckon, having spoken to a whole bunch of people, that you're likely to have certain priorities. If any of those resonate, are you open to having a quick conversation about it? Okay, that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to be really ambiguous, because that's curiosity, and they go, what the hell is this guy going on about? And they'll actually start, they might just ask you, okay? But you can't do any of these in isolation. And prospecting without any form of marketing, they don't know who you are either. So they want to see some sort of engagement. And if you just go into selling, well, you can't just go into selling without some form of prospecting. Because who are you selling to?
Yeah.
And so that's where the thing comes in. But coming back to Jill, 97% win rate. I mean, nobody gets away 90%, 97% win rate. That's just foolishness. I would say that if you're getting 97% win rate, you're not seeing enough people. Yeah. 50, 60%. Yeah. 70%, maybe.
In this client's case, Rashid, the effect was that they didn't record an awful lot of the early stage stuff that didn't proceed. So they were fundamentally frigging the numbers, and then they broke CRM in other ways. That was what I was alluding to with the technical stuff, in order to capture a lot of data on the lead, which really should have been an opportunity, prospect, or a quote.
Yeah. And it's very easy to fudge numbers. Okay.
Yes.
It's really easy to fudge numbers and to not actually look at where your money is coming from. And then you find yourself spending money in areas that you really shouldn't be spending money on, rather than where you should be spending money on. Okay. So if
50% of my marketing budget's not working. I just don't know which
I just don't know which one. That's right. So if we look at, this model is one of the foundations that we use with every client, because we say, okay, it always comes down to these three sides of the triangle. Okay, so what are the problems and outcomes? What are the problems you're solving? What are the outcomes you're getting for a specific market? And when I say specific market, I'm actually talking about a specific person in that market as well. Okay, so you're not marketing to a business, you are marketing to a person in a business who has some fears, frustrations, hopes, and desires. Okay. And so the clearer that you can get on the problems you solve and the outcomes that you get, and we always start from that side, not the market side. Traditional business says, oh, let me find a problem in a market and then I'm going to go and solve it. Now we say, what is our expertise, and who has those problems, or who wants those outcomes, and how do we target them? And so that's a fundamental shift in the way we look at things to the way general entrepreneurs, if you like, look at things. And then the bottom is, of course, you figured out what the problems are, you figured out what the outcomes are that they want, you know who they're looking for, the demographic is all the physical attributes, the psychographic is all the values and the beliefs that they might have around how they do business. Then how do you get in front of them? Because this is something that people neglect. Especially when you say everybody's my market, well, how do you get in front of them? How do you find them? And then what is your conversion rate? Because if your conversion rate, you can get in front of them, you can spend a lot of money, but if your conversion rate is lousy, you're wasting a lot of money.
I working now. What else? See in the world,
Sorry, Anurag, it's very hard to hear you. Have you got another microphone? You're getting a lot of echo. I think you're.
Just muted him, so sorry, but that was, otherwise it interferes with our recording as well, so.
You want to try again? Okay, we'll just move on for a second. All right, so let's just talk about creating sales momentum. Now, this is a model that I borrowed from Steve Brosman. Some of you may know Steve Brosman. I thought it was a really well done model from the point of view of a sales pendulum, because we all buy because we either have some pain that we want to avoid and or we want some aspiration that we want to get to. But people are more likely to move because of pain. Pain gets people off the status quo. And if the pain isn't big enough, then what's already working is good enough. And that's what we see a lot when things are tough, people don't want to move. And when things are tough in a shrinking economy, you want to talk to them about how you can save them money. In an expanding economy, you want to talk to them about how you can make the money. And it's a fundamental shift. And the question, as one of the members of one of our mastermind roundtables, Kyle Page says, he just listens to the media. When the media is talking about doom and gloom, his message is all about how we can save you money. And everybody wants to save money. And the minute the media starts to shift, the economy is doing really well, or we're looking at good times, he shifts the message to I want to help you make money. And interestingly enough, he runs a company. It's about, I think he said, about $50 million a year. Okay, so not a small operation. And he said that in recessions he has always done extremely well because of that messaging. So when we're talking about a problem to a particular person, what we're looking for is the pain side as well as the gain side. And the pain side is, what is the logical impact of the pain and what is the emotional impact? And then we swing to what is the logical impact and what is the emotional impact gain. And the greater the swing, the more likely they are to take action, because the thing is, none of us like change. And the status quo is always easier to stay in the status quo than to actually take action. And therefore, the greater the swing, the more likely it is for somebody to actually take action. And yeah.
Where would you position on that? I suppose let's say if you're talking to a CIO as an example, and he says, I've got the system, I need to replace it at some point, but things are tough at home, I really don't want the pain. So that emotional pain that he sees, as the pendulum would swing to a gain, I need to upgrade my system, I'm going to get some benefits. But I've got this personal pain that is separate from it's not the emotional impact, it's the pain of doing something. Do you see that as part of the gain, or is there almost like another negative, a red pendulum swinging the other way?
Yeah, okay. So there's always the business benefit, and there's always the personal benefit.
Yes.
Okay. And so if you think about it this way, we're all motivated by some combination of money, time, status, well-being, something that gives us energy or takes it away, and some form of capability, whether it gives us capability, takes us away. Okay. So if you think about it, you think about the CIO or the financial person in this case. Okay, he or she is going money. Okay, is this going to cost me money, or is it going to make me money? But when it comes to the personal side, I've got all these other issues. Do I really want the hassle? So even though I might agree that it's good for the organization, is it going to cause me personal hassle? And if it's going to cause me more personal hassle, and I don't want to do this, even if it's good for the organization, I won't do it. And then there's the status thing. And the status thing is in an organization is probably one of the key drivers that stops something going ahead. Because somebody is going, if this doesn't work, whose reputation is on the line? If I recommend this thing and it doesn't work, does that kill my chance of promotion? Does it kill my bonus? Do I have a job? And that more than often stops something going ahead.
Mhm.
And there could be multiple people involved, of course, because in any large deal or even a small business, you've got two business partners, you've got two different agendas.
Yep.
You got a husband and wife, two different agendas. Okay. So what are the agendas of the individuals concerned, and where are they seeing pain and where are they seeing gain? So you've got to realize you've got to separate out what's good for the business and what's good for the person. And we've got so many examples where things that would have been really good for the business didn't go through because either the person thought they were going to lose a job. The CEO might have thought, if this goes ahead, I'm going to have to sack a whole bunch of people. I can't do that. Even though later on, the company, I know one particular case, the company actually closed down because they didn't take the hard decision earlier on. Okay. So all of these factors come in. And so you've really got to look at the implications of, and help them work out the implications. You can't tell them, and this is the other thing, you can't tell people what the implications are. You have to let them work them out for themselves. You can guide them. You can ask, okay, so what's the worst that could happen? What would happen if this happened? What would happen if that happened? Okay, what is the cost of doing this? What is the cost of not doing it? So the greater the swing, the more likely they are to do something. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, thank you.
So some of you would be familiar with the format, which is a system of adult education created by Bernice McCarthy in about 1980. And we use it as the basis of sales conversations. We use it as the basis of writing material, any sort of presentation. And effectively, there are 4 quadrants. And the 4 quadrants are, and we all fall into these quadrants in some form, more or less. Okay. So quadrant number 1 is, why should I be interested? What's in it for me? And the key is, whenever you're talking to somebody, self-interest comes in. So if you're going to send out a message to somebody, or you're going to have a sales conversation with someone, what's in it for them? Why should they be interested in this particular topic? What happens is, though, a lot of people go into the what, and they literally vomit all their features and benefits, and they talk about, they want to do a demonstration, they want to talk about all of the wonderful stuff that this product does or the solution does. But at this point, we don't even know if they're interested. They don't even, if we go back to the pendulum, what is the problem that these people want to actually solve? We've gone straight into the number 2 quadrant, which is what. And then they go into the how, which is doing a demonstration, and eyes glaze over. So rather than doing that, what we say to everybody in sales is that you want to stay above the line, which is you really want to be talking about the problems, and you want to be talking about the outcomes, but you want to elicit those from them. It's no different. I was reading a LinkedIn post this morning, which I thought was really interesting, where a guy was saying, look, he spoke to 2 friends of his, one a man, one a woman, and he was having some business issues. He was wondering about whether he wanted to stay in business, et cetera. And he said the difference between men are from Mars and women are from Venus was quite stark. He said the man, when he explained what was going on for him, came in with solution. I reckon this is what you should do. Here's the advice. The woman just listened, just asked more questions, gave absolutely no advice. Now, the interesting thing was, he said that when the man gave him the advice, he felt he understood it on a logical level, but he didn't really want to do it. Okay. He didn't really feel that he wanted to go down this path. He could understand on a logical level, but he didn't emotionally connect with it. when the woman did it, it actually connected with him. And he said it was interesting. He came to the same conclusion both times, but the woman's method resonated. And if you translate that into a sales situation, if you go in there and you say, hey, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to do it, rather than eliciting and just sitting there and going, oh, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. Tell me about that. What's going on over there? What would happen if that happened? What would happen if this happened? And don't actually give advice until they ask for it. And that's the key. At some point, they will want to know what this thing is, and they will want to know how it works, but not initially. And this is the mistake that we see time and time again. People come in and they initially go into the what and the how. And it's far too early because you haven't given them any context as to why they should be even interested. What, do they actually even recognize that they've got a problem? And you have to help them through the questioning methodology as to, do they have a problem, and do they admit to themselves that they have a problem? So it's all about the framing that you give them. Because without that framing, nothing will happen. They'll nod their heads, they'll say, oh, this is fantastic, blah, 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 and then they'll walk away and they won't do a damn thing. Okay. So if we look, anyone want to talk into that for a second?
Sorry, Rashid, that's one of the issues we have. So we do a fair bit of LinkedIn posts, maybe on a Monday or on a Sunday. The thing is that you're not very sure how to write it in such a way that it appeals to the emotional, the way that can, get people to be more attentive. And that's, we probably are looking for a solution as to how can we do that in an affordable and an efficient way so that we get more posts going out and they resonate and we don't know who is the kind of person who can provide that kind of service because, we provide business valuation. So it should be somebody who knows, I don't know if they need to be have the technical knowledge, but they should know how to say it in a way that it can resonate. So one of the things we are looking for is more effective marketing, way that can translate to higher conversions.
Okay. So one thing, I think maybe we can take that offline, have a chat about it. But I think one interesting example that I have from a client, that he said that he has, what is this thing doing? Hang on a second. Yep. He's employed a couple of salespeople, just who are very, experienced, etc. And the person who is most successful at actually getting through to people is somebody who actually knows very little about what they do, which is an interesting point. Because that person has far more empathy, and he actually says, look, tell me what's going on, rather than trying to give them a solution. And what I would say with any sort of marketing is you want to evoke curiosity. So the mistake that we made for years, and we've been writing material for 20-something years, is that I would give too many solutions. What you want to be doing is raising questions. So you want to talk about the what you do, but not the how you do it. And you want to talk about the why something is important rather than what it is. So I read a post the other day from somebody, and he said he observed that any title that started with why something was important or why you should be doing something had far greater engagement than what you should be doing, because that evokes curiosity. So if you asked questions around, okay, so why would a valuation be important? But what do you really want to get out of this valuation? What do you really want out of your business? I mean, you want to move beyond the business where you sell it for a big payday. What is it you really want? and ask those sorts of questions rather than what you need to do.
Can I just add to that? What also, if you talk about the why more than the what and the how, that actually proves to the people that you have thought about what's going on. That you are walking in their shoes and say, this is why it's so important. This is why people do it. So you connect on an emotional level, in the sense that you acknowledge that it's really not easy to solve it. And we all have different reasons why we do things. So as many reasons as you can think of, and talk about these reasons not in a whole bulk, maybe take a couple of whys and write about that, because some people will be in that space. You just don't know which space they're in. And yeah, because the connection by the why is much better than the what and the how, because the what and the how is about what you do and how you do it, rather than walking across the fence line and say, yeah, this is. You can also say, this is why we came up with this program, because blah, 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 blah.
I saw an interesting quote the other day. It said, empathy was walking a mile in their shoes, but compassion was showing them how to get new shoes. And I thought it was an interesting way of doing it. Listen, it's coming up to 10 o'clock. Are you happy to just stay on for a few minutes?
Mhm. This is good.
So, Tom, I'm happy to have a conversation with you, and we'll see if we can steer you in the right direction with I'll have a look at some of your posts and see if that's okay. We'll just make a time offline. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just think about one thing that keeps coming up, and I've mentioned this before. People buy when they're ready, not when you need to make the sale. And your job is to be there, be in front of them when they could make that decision. Okay. And you don't know when that decision is going to happen. So there's the 90-day rule. So I don't know if you've ever been on any of our stuff, you know that we bang on about the 90-day rule. The 90-day rule was first coined by a lady called Wendy McCarthy, who used to work for Thomas Cook International, Saki & Saki, the advertising company, Intercon Hotels, etc. And she found that the 90-day rule meant that on day 91, if somebody had not heard from you and somebody else came along with something that could be useful, they would go with that other person. Day 91. This is really interesting. And she said happened time and time and time again. And so you absolutely have to be in contact in some form. Now, it doesn't mean you have to phone them up every 90 days, but there has to be something like a newsletter, case studies, occasional phone call, etc. We've had people on our list, as I said, for years, sometimes, and they suddenly wake up and do something. So you've got to be in it for the long haul, and that is where the marketing comes in, because the prospecting tends to be a much shorter time frame. So out of every conversation you have, let's assume that you're having some form of prospecting and sales conversation. This is the last thing that I want to just mention. You want to look for one of three commitments. You want to push for one of three things. One is every conversation needs to lead to another contact. So if you're having a conversation and they say, oh, look, maybe I'm not the right person, or you need to find out who else is involved with the decision, you want another contact. You also want to never leave a meeting without another meeting booked, if at all possible. So you want a contact, you want some sort of calendar invitation, because it's much easier to move a meeting than to never have it in the diary in the first place. Mm. And the last one is cash. Can I actually sell something? Is this person in a position to make a decision? And sometimes we're very shy about asking that. I've given you all of this. Okay, so, can we go ahead? But one of those three things you want to get. And certainly if nothing else, another calendar invitation. Now, given all of that, where is this thing gone? Bear with me. 5. Has that been useful?
Mm.
Okay. So tell me, why
Yes,
has it been
thanks,
useful?
Richie.
What have you got out of it?
Filled in a few gaps.
Such as?
I think the pendulum was very useful. I sort of knew it in a vague way, but that it crystallized it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because sometimes, yeah, subconsciously, some of these tasks we actually do by ourselves, but when you sort of study it, you think about it in a different way, and then you sort of go, okay, maybe I should be doing more of that. Actually adds, that 80-20 rule as you brought up. Yeah, there's more value in that. Trying to be broad and knowing your client and knowing the why. I think that's huge, because sometimes, yeah, especially as an engineer, you want to go straight to the solution. It's almost taking that step back and taking off the technical hat.
Yeah, the taking off the technical hat for all of us, and I'm an engineer, is key. And as one of my very early mentors in network marketing said to me, Rashid, you have to bite your tongue until it bleeds. Do not jump in. Give people the space. And this is the thing, you ask a question, give them the space to answer. Don't jump in while they're thinking. So here's the thing. How long would you wait before you felt you needed to jump in because you're not okay with silence? Just give me an idea. How long would you wait? 30 seconds?
Yeah, a minute or two.
A minute or two? Okay. What would happen then? Would you start feeling, oh, I need to do something, I need to jump in, I need to say something, you'd start feeling that, wouldn't you? Okay. My record, and I kid you not, was 30 minutes.
No.
30 minutes sitting there. Now, okay, this was face to face, a little bit harder to do on the phone. Okay. But 30 minutes sitting with this guy, waiting for him, and you know what he was doing? He was thinking, he was looking all over. Whatever. I just sat there and smiled at him. Because you ask a question, you expect a response. And my question was, do you want to go ahead? And when? And at the end of 30 minutes, he said, yeah. He needed that time to think. And this is the thing. It takes a lot of self-control to sit there and be comfortable with silence. And if that was one thing that I could have you take away, is get really comfortable with silence.
That's hard. It's harder said than done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very hard thing to do. I agree. But the more comfortable you get with silence, the more you are likely to succeed.
Just think about that. We all need thinking time, and we all hate it if thinking time is interrupted by someone, don't we? So it's a courtesy of our opposite number to give them the space they need to make a decision. And the other thing, hardly anyone does that. So guess what? Guess what happens if you are that polite and considerate and empathetic? What do you think that does to the connection between you and them, or them and you?
It comes back to the same thing about sitting there and just listening to somebody. Sometimes very few words have to be spoken. You just sit there and you listen, and the other person just feels heard. Okay. All right. So we obviously do a lot of work in sales and helping businesses improve their revenue and their profitability. And one of the programs that we offer in different forms is a sales intensive program where we work with you. That's all right, Shane. Thanks, mate. We work with you to drill down into your value proposition, how to create that positioning through marketing, how to actually set up a prospecting system, frame and lead sales conversations, and then deal with multiple stakeholders, because there always are. You know, even if it's someone silent in the background, there's always somebody. And then how do you actually negotiate and handle the objections? And the key, of course, is never getting an objection, because you've already pre-framed it. That's another skill. And then there's all of the people who say, send me information and how you handle proposals. And my thing is, you never do proposals. But that's another story. And then how do you actually do this on Zoom or in a hybrid situation? And so we run these as bespoke programs. We are putting together a 6-month program where we do it as a group, where there's going to be a significant amount of interaction and feedback, as well as role plays, and also the group coming together to work on specific issues together. So we'll be putting that together in the near future. And so if any of you are interested in talking to us about any of those programs, feel free to give us a call. In fact, I'll follow you up. So I take my own advice. I never leave a meeting without a meeting. Something else that I'm more than happy to send you, if you'd like that, you can either take a thing or just let me know and I'll send it to you. I have a document on how to actually lead a sales conversation, which goes into a number of steps that you don't follow linearly, but they're laid out linearly so that you have an idea of what you need to cover in any sales conversation to get to one of contact, calendar, or cash. Now, obviously, we've only just scratched the surface of today. If you'd like more help in growing your business, whether you're a business owner or like you, Marcus, you just want to get better, and you can, by all means, just reach out and we can have a chat. So that's the end of the formal part. Anybody with any final comments?
I would like to respond to Bill. Many people only allow 30 minutes or 60 minutes for a meeting, even in person. Yes, I understand the implication of time and all the rest of it. I just give you a very interesting example that when it comes to time, we were just we're looking for a house to move into, had a lot of real estate, had been exposed to a lot of real estate agents, and these inspection times are often only 15 minutes. So you have a number of people running through, and it's just really quite hard. We came across, and some real estate agents are slightly different. They give you half an hour. And we had one, interestingly enough, the house we're going to be moving into next week, that said to us, I do not believe in half an hour, in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I want to take the time to take the client through the property, make sure they understand how the property works, and so on and so forth. We've also found out that he's one of the best performing and real estate agents in our area, and he has quite a following, doesn't he? So it's really quite interesting how he positions himself, because if you think about it, that's a positioning exercise. The positioning exercise is, I want to make sure we understand each other. We understand where you're going, where you'll be living. That's my job. Yes, okay. He does half of the inspections than someone else does. But what do you think?
But he gets more closes, so
yep.
more sales /
and he connect with the owner as much as with the tenant. So how does this relate to you? Is another 15 minutes worth it? You've already prepared. You've always done the traveling.
So, but coming back to the 30 minutes or 60 minutes, people say, I have had people say, oh, I've only got 10 minutes, and an hour and a half later, they're still talking.
Yeah.
Okay? It comes back to, are they interested? And it's their interest, not mine.
That comment was from the perspective of the other side. And I'm thinking about one project in particular where they allocated 45 minutes and they wasted some of the upfront time, which I let happen, possibly my error. But then at the 45-minute mark, they were packing up and leaving because they had another meeting. and it's taken a long time to get them to move forward. And I'm sure all of that's related.
Yeah, yeah, that comes back to how you frame it in the first place, I
Yeah.
think. And yeah, Donna McGeorge, you may want to look her up. How to have the
25-minute meeting?
25-minute meeting. It's in the library. Go and find it. Donna McGeorge. How to structure a meeting so it's really efficient.
Mm.
Hang on. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Any final comments before we go off and do something else?
No, I
Bella?
think
No.
it was definitely very useful. I will reach out to you regarding a solution on the sales and prospecting system, which is what I'm looking to implement. Because ideally, when I go into networking meetings, I want to feel comfortable that I've already got in the background a system that is speaking to the public through my website or my LinkedIn or my other social media. And I'm just now adding that extra layer where I meet somebody in a Chamber of Commerce meeting and they already know at the back of their head what we do. And that sort of helps as well to, you know, put us to the work. So that's what I'm looking for. And what I'm looking for is to automate it as much as possible so that, you know, 5 or 10 years later, if I want to bring in another investor or sell it, this whole would essentially be on autopilot. You know, I should be in the Bahamas, sipping on cocktails, and things should be happening, you know.
Yes, we'd all like that, I think. Yeah, there's a certain extent anyway. So Marcus, you okay?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot for your time. And when you reach out, I'll try and convince someone here. That, I know we've had these chats before, but I think it's good, even if it's some sort of private sessions that we do or something like that.
Yeah, depending on what it is. I mean, sometimes we've just coached individuals. Sometimes we, just particular salesperson needs help, or whatever it is. So there are different ways we can.
There are different options.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, there are different options. Anyway,
okay.
If you'd like, any of you would like the recording, I'm happy to send it off. Once it's processed, you can then review whatever you can.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Do we have to
do that?
Write that? Do we have to put in the chat, or you can?
No, I'll just send it. I'll send it to all of you. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for turning up. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Rashid. Great session.
Thank you. Some good tips for the webinar I'm running in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. See you guys. See you later.
All right. See you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye.